ठीक है.
पर so what I was saying was कि there was nothing but except कि एक चीज था which मेरे को थोड़ा सा खटका, felt like I don't completely agree with this. So maybe we can talk about that if we have if we get through everything else, which is so that he made some points around what you do doesn't really matter. पर्पस ऑफ लाइफ वाला सेक्शन में था, तो वो व्हाट यू डू डजंट, वो पर्पस ऑफ लाइफ भी था, उससे पहले भी उसने एक पॉइंट बोला था व्हाट यू डू डजंट रियली मैटर, एंड ही टॉक्ड अबाउट इट इन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ कि यार 60 70 80 years is an infinitely small period in the scheme of things, ये वो, तो it doesn't really matter. तो वो चीज मेरे को थोड़ा सा, that was the only thing that I felt that I kind of disagreed with. बाकी तो there was nothing, the concept of compound interest, the concept of मतलब एवरीथिंग वाज लाइक ठीक है, अगर मेरे में इतना टैलेंट होता है मैं किताब लिखूंगा तो ऐसे कुछ लिखता.
So that's what I really liked about the book. I think his ability to observe and then synthesize all that information into wisdom and articulate it, वो बहुत solid है. So
correct. That's what it is.
Right. So he is able to do that very, very well. And he doesn't talk about abstruse concept, jo abstract, jo tumko senseless lagega. Bahut practical this thing hai. So like he said, there's nothing that I disagreed. In fact, that part about, that you don't really matter, I think he's put that into some context. So what he's saying is in the larger context of 10 billion years before you and 10 billion years after you, you are merely the blink of a firefly. That's so, and then he goes on to say, so you do whatever you have to do, live well. And I think what he's trying to say is don't fret so much over it. That's where he starts that happiness ka section. You're just a monkey with a plan. So don't fret so much about. I think probably it's about not fretting so much and not thinking so much कि इतना important भी नहीं है, मगर इतना important भी नहीं है. That's the context I thought. But anyway, we can get to that.
That's a very good discussion to actually have. Even I had some challenges in trying to kind of digest that one, but I can understand where he's coming from. So that'll be interesting.
So I did not have challenges in digesting that. because मेरे को ऐसा लगा कि उसने इसको बहुत अच्छे से contextualize किया है कि इतना fret करने की जरूरत नहीं है, boss है बहुत. So in my mind, I mean, this is a thought that has come very often in my mind, that at one end, one continuum of this thing is to understand that your existence is a mere blink of a firefly. It means nothing. And the दूसरे continuum पे जो है it is everything. That this is one life. And मुझे लगता है कि दोनों thoughts को parallelly जो इंसान उससे operate कर पाता है, to be able to operate from those simultaneously. It's nothing and it's everything simultaneously in the right situation, in the right way. That is very wise and mature.
I thought the metaphor he gave was fantastic. We are descendants of chimpanzees in the speck of a dust millions of years ago. There's nothing you can argue with on the other way. You are descendant of a chimpanzee. There's a dust speck which became a planet and millions of years ago. So मतलब इसमें कोई disagree वाली बात ही नहीं है. So that metaphor really hit home to me.
Yeah, I think the in terms of a fact, there's no doubt about it. In a sense, like when I'm talking about fact, I'm not talking about evolution, but I'm talking about just the span of time, where I fully get what he said. I loved his thing about the Sumerians. I'm sure the Sumerians was
great.
were a very important people.
नाम बताओ उसका.
लेकिन किसी एक का नाम मालूम है क्या?
किसी का नाम मालूम है.
But that was the part that I disagreed with a little bit.
Okay.
So which was that ठीक है Sumerian नहीं पता, लेकिन there are lots of people who have lived many years back जिनका नाम हमको पता है, and that's because they did great work, and they did it just based on their ability, not because they were born into a big family or whatever, right? Not because greatness was handed to them. They did it, and they did phenomenal work that has had an impact on generations to come. तो अगर वो लोग भी ऐसा सोचने लगेंगे तो फिर कि यार who will remember me 200 years from now, तो फिर कैसे चलेगा? So the thing that अभी I've been obviously here for many years, तो मेरे को थोड़ा सा naturally यहाँ पे American examples आता है. India में obviously there are lots of examples from India also, but you can think about Mahatma Gandhi and the impact that those leaders had in terms of getting us independence. But यहाँ पे, to give you another example, let's say we think about Abraham Lincoln. Yeah, let's say Abraham Lincoln, because I think it's an easier concept to explain. So Abraham Lincoln, ordinary fellow, grew up in a shed and all that, right? Became the president. And but lots of people became the president. He is one of 40, 50 presidents. But he was the only one who freed the blacks, right? So look at the tremendous impact that has had.
So Vineet,
So
hold that thought.
so I'll hold
This
it.
is
Sequence में
yeah.
जाते हैं.
This is probably a very like heavy and important one. So I was thinking of structuring our 1 hour so that we can like do many things.
Sure.
And I thought what we could do is we could start with the simpler and easier ones to digest, the little bit more touch and feel things. I like
Yeah,
what I think Gogo wanted to speak about specific knowledge, and I think that's a great one. So we probably Gogo, if you're okay to start with that, just your thoughts, and we'll have like we chat about that for a few minutes. Then if Suresh, you can talk about the getting
Opening is
wealthy
always
without
nervous, but I'll
getting
give it a
lucky.
go.
Sorry.
Sure.
Yeah. I said the opening was always a difference, but I'll give it a try. Yeah. So
Yeah. Of course. Go ahead, man. Yeah. So and then I'm just like generally thinking around 8:05, 8:10 tak hum log between Gogo and Suresh we can talk, and then we can get back to the happiness one, which is heavy
Sure.
and good fun. Yeah. All right. Go for it.
So, folks, as mentioned, the idea is a think along. There is some concepts like Vineet I deeply agree with. Some concepts I really want to think along with all of you, but let me go back to where he starts. He starts the fact that if you want to create wealth, you need to have accountability, leverage, and specific knowledge. So, to cut a long story short, he said, yeah, the largest job you can find where you make the maximum impact. And that accountability is defined as willingness to get criticized. So if something goes right, you get criticized. If something, you get the credit, and if something goes wrong, you get criticized. So that definition of accountability I really like. Leverage, he said that capital and labor are the old tools of leverage, but the new tools of leverage are media and code. So he says you get a big impact, you get that leverage which powers that impact. But then he said, and this is
Hey,
the concept that
Gogo, if I
fascinated
can
me.
interrupt.
He said, no,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's actually just to step back there on leverage. He actually classifies it as it has permissioned and non-permissioned. Basically, capital and people. Somebody has to give you the money to start your business, and people have to actually follow you. So they have to give you a permission,
yes,
right? And in today's world,
yes,
you have two non-permissioned leverages available, right? Media and code. You don't need anybody. You have a laptop. You
media
can
and
create the
code.
code like Bitcoins. That's Satoshi guy. You can do whatever you want.
Yes,
That I thought
exactly,
the categorization is
exactly,
makes the thinking clear. Yeah, please continue.
exactly. And Suresh, honestly, capital and labor is the what I thought would be. Yeah, we've all learned that. But this media and code were new to me. So this leverage concept of code is in media, of course, it's true. But when he says that the marginal cost of replication is very low, whenever
Almost
everything is
zero.
digital, that's when you
Correct.
realize the leverage and the possibilities of internet is amazing, right? So that's the part that appealed to me. But the one that got the maximum juice was the specific knowledge part. And this, as I said, partly the concept is clear, partly the concept is blurring boundaries with other things that I've learned. So on specific knowledge, he says is something that is at the edge of knowledge. So, for example, he said specific knowledge cannot be taught, but it can always be learned. And one example he gives is the learning an apprentice has at the feet and the knees of the master. So that is some kind of the way you acquire specific knowledge. So the hunger of the learner needs to be there, but the teacher can't come and say that, yeah, you need to teach this, and everybody. It's very difficult. Again, going the field I'm in leadership, you can try to teach leadership, but learning is where you really need to pick it up. Huh? So he gives an example. He gives a couple of examples. He gives sales, like example of a sales capability or a sales skill. And he says you can teach sales, but at the same time, learning of sales is always possible. Teaching of sales to, let's say, an introvert, he gives an example of an introvert, is not always possible. And introvert, if you just don't go by the narrow definition, but for the broad one, who doesn't enjoy interacting with people, or doesn't get his energy from other people, I think the point he's making is that when you're doing something which is at the for which you really need a um, particular area, a particular curiosity to get ahead, is specific knowledge. He gives an example of investing, and within investing, he says that how things move, how trades happen, is 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 an example of specific knowledge. There are two other points he makes on specific knowledge, and then I'll pause for a bit and then come to the other point. So the first point being that it cannot be taught but can always be learned. The other point he makes is when you are acquiring specific knowledge, it is from a base of curiosity. Just to give an example, if cryptocurrency is my base of curiosity, I will try to get deeper into it. And the same time, the other concept he makes is it is not only from a base of curiosity, it is also when you are doing it, you are in the flow. It doesn't feel like work, it feels like play. And again, I was going back to some of the concept I learned in something called the Gallup Strength Finder. The Gallup Strength Finder, as some of us know, are kind of a list of strengths, and then you find out what your strengths. But one of the things the Gallup teacher told me is when you're using your strength, it doesn't even feel. It's like Mikhail Csikszentmihalyi concept of flow. You're in the flow. It doesn't feel like work. It feels like play. So that concept is when you're applying a specific knowledge. So for example, if somebody's specific knowledge on negotiation is just ability to have a deal with two different kinds of people, or ability to hold a conflict, hold a situation, and he really knows that. And some people find negotiation just joy. So the point he's making is if things are a joy, if they don't feel like work, if this taps into your curiosity, and if it really helps build you, then you're applying your specific knowledge to a situation. Now, to make the matters come home, I just thought of a personal example. Uh, this is a little strange. So my brother doesn't get along with my father. Huh? We put them in the same room. 5 minutes later, one of them comes out. Huh? But at the same time, I'm able to have a conversation with my brother, and I'm able to hold a conversation with my father. And in the same room, when I'm there, somehow the meeting lasts 1 hour. So the real strength that I have is ability to have. And I'm not trying to be arrogant. I'm trying to be modest around it. The real strength that I have is ability to hold two conflicting viewpoints and get other people to see each other's viewpoint. And that's the strength I have. And the specific knowledge that I've built is I've tried to have always opposing parties and try to keep a mediation in that and try to learn more about mediation, how to mediate, how do conflict resolve, and how do you get into the base of conflict resolution. So that's the example I wanted to give. The part I'm struggling with in specific knowledge is how different is it from a strength? And that's the part I'm struggling with and I'm hoping to think along with you. How different is it from just being very good at something? So where is the knowledge component of specific knowledge? The part that he says that apprentices are the best source of specific knowledge. That's the part I know he's right, but I can't put my finger on it. So I'll just make a pause
Can you
there and
repeat
then
that? What does he say about apprentice? Apprentices are the best.
So he says that in part of the Twitter, not necessarily as part of the book, but he says you really acquire specific knowledge when you want to learn. So apprentices are the best example of people wanting to acquire specific knowledge. For example, in that Wolf of Wall Street, Leonardo DiCaprio goes to the guy who does that, right? That's when he was trying to get specific knowledge around something. So like for example, teacher student is
So for a moment, I thought about, so you're saying, how do you differentiate between specific knowledge and strength? One example that comes to my mind is, I think a strength also has an innate talent along with it. For example, if you take somebody like a Tendulkar and you take another boy, you start training him at the age of 2 for cricket, and you take a Tendulkar and start training him for cricket, I think they would given all the circumstances, all the training, everything same, they would still turn out to be different. Tendulkar might still turn out to be a master batsman because there is innate talent. While the specific knowledge has been gained by both, but there is an innate ability to do something that comes naturally. Probably, to me, I see strengths more as what you're naturally born with. Now you can sharpen that with a lot of specific knowledge, practice and everything, and then you can start shining. So, but there are some people like, all the training that Lata Mangeshkar got, there are some people who can get all the training in the world, but they still sound like a donkey. So that's not, to me, they've gotten the specific knowledge, but that may still not develop into a strength. That's probably one. I mean, I just wanted to share my thoughts on that.
Yeah. One point on that specific knowledge is I think he uses the word knowledge very loosely because all the examples he gives are actually skills. Skill is actually what you deliver to others, right? It can be a writing skill or a speaking skill or a painting skill or a cooking skill, right? It's all, I mean, skills are verbs basically, right? Knowledge are nouns, right? He uses the word knowledge loosely, I feel. He actually means skills, which is what is important, like negotiation skill, mediation skill, right? And obviously, any skill is built on knowledge, and skills are better for people who have the natural ability, which is where the strength comes in. Just to pick on Gulshan's example of Tendulkar, right? So Tendulkar is a very successful sports person. He's a very good batsman, right? He has very specific skill. I don't know what it is, but he must be having something, right? But he has a strength called hand-eye coordination, right? He has a strength called mental strength, right? Actually, that's what differentiates Sachin Tendulkar from Vinod Kambli, right? Both of them were fantastic cricketers in terms of stroke play and all that, but Vinod Kambli just didn't have the mental strength to last, and he just got wavered and lost his way in life. So the point I'm making is specific skills are actually skills, and actually the way I relate to it is I got a chance to hear one guy who's a photographer in Hawaii, right? I got a chance to listen to him as a motivational speaker, and his claim to fame is he's a photographer, of course, and he's a surfer also, right? So he has combined his surfing skills and photography skills, right, to become one of the top surfing photographers of the world. That's it. That's what he does in life. He lives on a beach, on a shack or whatever, right? He has a good income. He just surfs, he just photographs. And how did he learn this? In his speech, in his talk, he told us he was born in some New York or somewhere, and he left New York and reached Hawaii when he was 17. He had enough money to reach Hawaii. That's it. After that, he had no plan, nothing. He landed up and said, "I want to surf." So he surfed and surfed and surfed, and he became so good at surfing. And I think that's where that 10,000 hours thing kicks in, right? And along the way, he either learned surfing or photography, or he discovered a passion for photography or whatever. Something happened, and now he's combined those two threads to become the best surfing photographer of the world. Right? So I think.
I was just saying, the example. Just on that point, the example Ravikant Naval gives is, if you've done sales and you think sales is skill, but then you also do a background in psychology and you do a little bit of psychology. So you build on to, and then the skill compounds, and then you have specific knowledge of psychology mixed sales. So you know how human behavior works, and you're able to utilize that human behavior to sell your product. So that's the specific knowledge Naval Ravikant gives as an example.
See, I was thinking about, I agree with what Suresh is saying about skills, but I also think it's not limited to just the skills. I think he is talking, when I look at, to understand that, I'm looking at the context of everything else he says. One is that he's talking about uniqueness of each individual, saying that no one can be you. That's something that he comes back at a later stage. So, skills, there are a whole, there could be other people with skills, but for example, Sachin Tendulkar is a good example where his skills are better than everybody else's, but there are also people who are the only ones who do what they do, like this photographer guy that you spoke about. Of course, in that case, also it's a combination of skills. But I think he's also trying to say, he's talking about knowledge in the sense, you read foundational stuff. That's what I remember him saying. He's saying you read, yeah, for example, I mean, a lot of people talk about economics, they become majors in economics, but nobody's read Adam Smith. So if you read the foundational stuff, so it basically is something that you can pick up to build your own thing, on that, and I think that's, in a sense, I can understand specific knowledge from that angle. I think the challenge of specific knowledge is that in the initial part of pursuing it, it is not rewarding. It doesn't seem rewarding, socially rewarding, because it's something that you're doing with nobody else has done. It's going to take you ages to make something of value out of it. And then he talks about the other thing. It says that society will pay you for what they don't have. And I think specific knowledge is the way to get there. Like, you need to get to that point where you can get that thing which society doesn't have, which they will pay you for it. But initially, I feel it might seem like a very unrewarding journey. I think that's a challenge. That's a challenge with it. It's much easier to just do something which is work. Somebody else has done it, and you can sustain yourself through it. It's much easier to do that. It's much harder to build and do something which nobody else has done, because that's hard.
So you see, okay, let me connect the dot. I mean, let me tell you the way I have connected these dots. Okay, so one is, you develop specific skills because it is you are genuinely interested in that, right? You can be a I mean, again, you can have an interest in electronics, you can have an interest in outdoors, and you will become a very good ham radio operator plus a trekker or something like that, right? A mountaineer or something like that, right? Which can be of very useful. It can be very useful in some situations. So basically, he's saying the initial days when it's unrewarding, you don't need the rewards, because the work itself is its reward, right? And then actually, it's if you are very authentic and if you follow your passion, right, without imitating anybody else, right? What he means is, if there is a chance for everybody to develop very, very specific skills in which they are very valuable, and hopefully the world will reward it. But the world will reward it when what you're giving the world, you are giving it to the world, or rather you are creating the knowledge before the world knows that it wants it, right? And then you're delivering that at scale, right? Of course, the scale part is actually the how much money you make. You get richer and richer if you deliver it at scale, but you will be equally happy if you deliver it at non-scale, right? Okay, I hope I don't know whether it made sense what I said, but that's how it all connects. It's all about being authentic every step of the way, which again connects to what Gulshan said. You stay in the present, and you know that it doesn't matter much, but net and sum, you are like so much mindful and you're in the moment that you only you're basically very authentic, right? I mean, to take words from transaction analysis, or you're very spontaneous, you're very autonomous, right? You have no scripts running you, right? You're very in the moment. That's what it is.
Yeah. If I can add a few, right? I mean, I agree with everything that everybody said. Those are the kinds of things he wants to say in that entire section. I mean, I think there was also a point around or a theme around this, which was around just advantage, right? Creating differentiation and advantage for oneself. The way I connected the dots, which is similar to what Surya described and others as well, right? And it goes back to what Gaurav, you were saying around the I forget the what was that, the Gallup thing. You play to your strengths. So his point, the way I interpreted all that was that identify what your strengths are, or he might be using strengths as interests and interests interchangeably. Identify your strengths or identify your interests, and then you work on it. You develop it, because they are your interests or your strengths. The chances are that one is that the work itself is its reward, And secondly, the chances are that you will do really well at it. And I guess his point is, if you play to your advantages, the chances are you will be better than anybody else, which will create competitive advantage, which will help you differentiate yourself, which will then lead to good things. It'll lead to demand for your services and money and all of that. If you can deliver it at scale, great. If not, you're still fine. I guess he was trying to draw a contrast between that scenario versus what typically happens, usually especially with, I think most of us are familiar with this. What typically happens, which is that we get into the herd, right? We haven't spent the time, and we've not been trained to spend the time to identify what our strengths or our interests are, right? Which it requires time and it requires effort to identify that. And maybe it requires a lot of experimentation as well. But we don't do that. We don't spend that. We don't make that investment. So we go towards what seems to be the common denominator, which is fine, but that doesn't create specific knowledge. It doesn't allow us to differentiate ourselves. And so we get returns which are average as well, right? We don't get differentiated returns. We don't get supernormal returns. And that's his point. If you want to get supernormal returns in anything, whether you want to be whether it's in terms of money or in terms of artistic achievement or in terms of professional achievement or academic, whatever, right? You've got to do that. That achievement needs to be in an area that's of your interest and you have some strengths in. You identify that and build on that, and that gets you to specific knowledge. That's how I look at it.
Thanks, Vineet. So, Gaurav, since would you want to just wrap this part up, and then we can give it to Suresh for the next one, which is getting wealthy without getting lucky. But over to you.
The only wrap-up comment that I would have is on the part of strength. I was in a course with the same Gallup Strength Finder, and everybody on the course did not know that these were the 5 strengths, but only when they gave it, they felt a kind of sense of liberation and relief that actually this is their unique thumbprint. So a lot of people, so the number one thing they tell us is first name it and then aim for something higher. So just naming the strength is probably the step one. But anyway, with that comment on specific knowledge, with that wrap up, Suresh, over to you.
Okay, yep. Thanks, Coco. So Arpit, how do you want to do this? I sort of start the discussion.
So what we can do is we should aim for about 10 minutes for this. You just initiate a conversation like what Gogo just did, and we can each all respond to it. You can wrap it up, then we can talk about the happiness bit.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, basically, I discovered this tweet storm maybe 1.5 to 2 years ago, and it's been one of my favorites ever since. So basically, by the way, I don't know how many of you know Naval Ravikant is of Indian origin, obviously, and his parents moved, I think, before he was 10 to somewhere in the New York State side, and he has 2 brothers. There are two of them, he and his brother. And I think after moving there, his parents split or something like that. So he didn't have a father when they grew up. His mother worked 2-3 jobs, and somehow he got in. And his lucky break in life is when he cleared some entrance exam and got into some fancy school, which is like premier, something he got into, some premier school, but he had some quota for poor kids or something like that. And he got in, and that's where his life changed, basically. And he basically, then after that, so a series of events happened, which are all, good for him. And then he got into this coding thing, and he exited a couple of companies, and then from there he's just investing, and he's been making money, right? So the interesting part about this tweet storm is actually the last tweet in this thread. Okay, so he basically says by saying that all this you do, you'll make a lot of money, and once you make money, you'll realize that it's not worth anything, right? Which is the rest of the book. And all of us would have experienced in some fashion or the other by this time in our lives, right? If you have enough for 3 meals a day, and for the next foreseeable future, you're able to project that a roti kapda makan sort of thing, you know that it doesn't add money doesn't add much value. But obviously, money is the only way we can keep track, right? How well you're doing or how well you're not doing. It's the most objective measure. So that way I like this tweet thread, and what I like this tweet thread for, actually the reason I refer to it again and again is actually when we have career discussions with our kids, with my kids. So in fact, yesterday also, the reason I read it out to my second one is there's one tweet about what subjects to study, right? That's the most relevant one for me. Of course, others I definitely relate to in my work, in my day-to-day, in my day job. But the subjects what to study is what I relate to, right? Can you, if you study that subject, how do you, can you get into some role or some industry, not role is very specific, some industry. My kids, when they study this, can they go get into some industry where they can play long-term games with long-term people? So basically I interpret long-term games as sunrise industries, right? I mean, it's not like there's no point getting into physical retail. I mean, to my mind, that's like a dead-end industry. Of course, it'll last a long time, but then it's not a long-term industry. So that's where that's the biggest takeaway from the subjects that one needs to study. And by the way, that the subjects one needs to study got updated recently. I couldn't find that tweet today, but a couple of months ago he actually updated that list. I think earlier he had ethics in it, and he removed ethics from that now.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Renamed it to something different. Retaining the essence of integrity or something like that. I don't know. I'm just speculating loudly.
No, he completely dropped it. He said ethics is all very relative. I think he brought in physics, maths, physics and computers. Physics, maths, computers, microeconomics, persuasion, game theory, and something else.
So Suri, what was the summary? I'm trying to capture what was the summary of like if you were to say one or two line summary. Why do you read this thing to your kids over and over again? What is it from it that you want to like bring into there?
Great question.
Yeah. So I mean, my kids have this question. No, I mean, there is no missing the fact that I have given me and my wife have given them that message that you have to be successful in life, right? That is that's a message. How does one become successful? Okay, my elder one now has realized that it means enough money so that I can go live in a van. That is her concept of success as of now, right? Till she's 30 or so, she wants to live in some van and somewhere else. I mean, do whatever she wants. Have the flexibility, right? The younger one is still figuring it out, right? I mean, when your only objective in life is to be successful, and of course we have put that thing, very conflicting condition that, oh, you know what, you have to be successful, but you have to be happy also, right? That also we have sort of given that. So they sort of understand all these conflicts, and then they keep. At least my second one is now asking. Earlier, my first one was asking. So what do I do? What do I study? Right? Because that's the big question that they get from their peers also. What field are you going to choose? So obviously, in today's world, if somebody makes very definite recommendations, I think I think it's very silly, because there are a lot of people. I mean, if you read on internet, no, there are people who are making millions on TikTok, millions on Instagram, much more than I can ever dream about. And there are other people making good money on Substack, I'm told. They write newsletters on Substack and get a lot of money, right? Which are all, by the way, media, right? Non-permission leverage. They use existing platforms and make a lot of money, right? And they're successful in their own way. Whether they're happy or not, I don't know, right? So to actually, this is a good guide for me for the discussion I have with them, right? What do you do with your life? Of course, I don't talk about the rest of it, accountability, leverage, because they don't understand. But what subject to study, I always tell them. Like my elder one went off into design, so which is like somewhat like media, code, that kind of thing, right? My younger one, we have to see where she goes. But yeah, that's what I find use in this.
I think so, Suresh. I think the word. I don't think you necessarily mean equate success with wealth. I mean, it may be one part of it. So while the thread may be about getting rich, I think what you're trying to tell your children is how do you really make a meaningful life and do well at life, which includes being successful.
Yes, correct. I agree with you. I mean, it has
Because
multiple
so
meanings.
that thread itself has a lot of life advice, life
Correct.
lesson, right? It's not just about making money. So in that sense, I think that's probably where you're using it to talk to your children, have those conversations. So if I have to have that, I have those conversations with my children, they're like, for me, it is, you please stand on your own feet. You have to figure out how to feed yourself, how to get a roof over your head. Because, nobody's going to continue to provide for you your entire life. So that's inclusive of, that includes, part of it is success. But to me, standing on your own feet, taking responsibility for your existence on this earth is a very important part of success. So I have those conversations.
Just one last comment on that one. He distinguishes between wealth and money. He says wealth is financial freedom, money is a transactional medium of exchange. So, and that part I thought was very well put. The way he captured it was very well.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you.
And I remember reading somewhere that freedom really is when nobody can purchase your time. Actually, the ability to say, give me a lakh, give me 20 lakhs a day, this thing, I'm not going to do this. I have the ability to walk away from that. So tough
financial
thinking.
freedom, so that you can play long-term games with long.
You can, financial freedom makes a huge impact. It's a game changer. There is no doubt about it. But I still want my, so I have this dilemma. I'll just put it across, but we can talk about it another time. When they say follow your passion, so I did write an article about it. Follow your passion, follow your passion. Follow your passion, but you need to feed yourself also, right? Even that is critical. And then, the counter example that comes to mind to me is, I read the biography of Van Gogh. Okay, he's such a brilliant artist. Now he didn't earn a penny his entire life. His brother actually funded him, right? But do I have respect for Van Gogh? Yeah, the kaan kat liya na, so he was bipolar. So but that kind of passion, that kind of talent, right? But he couldn't fend for himself. He couldn't feed himself, right? Now, that was a dilemma to me. How do you answer that? My answer to that for myself was, be willing to live in penury. If you want to follow your passion, be willing to live on somebody's arms, be willing to put down your self-respect and say, haan, main aise khush hu. That is a choice you have to make then. That is the only answer I could come to.
But in fact, he did mention it. He actually mentioned 3 forms of freedom. Number one is financial freedom, where which is what we're talking about. Where you have such a big corpus that it takes care of your day-to-day living expenses. You can do whatever you want. That's only number 1 of 3. The second one is you become a monk, or basically you reduce your standard of living to a point where you don't require so much money to live, and you're able to survive, and so you're able to follow your passion. That's the other one. But interestingly, he actually mentioned something, a third one. He says, just if you manage in whatever form to be able to do what you love, you already got some form of freedom. I mean, that's not necessarily financial freedom, but he's basically saying, if you have got to a point where you're able to just do what you love, you're already got
freedom itself, right? That's very high degree of freedom to be able to do what you love. I mean, it's immense. It's immense. When I left my job, okay, and I left that financial stability and that monthly package at the end of the month, that committed salary, it is the pain is very, very huge. But I'm still not able to trade my freedom for a job. I'm willing to take a hit and on the money and reduce my expenses and say, yahan nahi kharcha karungi, wahan nahi karungi, but I'm just unable to sell my time anymore to someone where I don't feel like it.
Exactly in the same place.
It's addictive.
Yeah. Thanks.
Counter one. But let's go to the third point and then we'll come back.
No, so I think what we could do is we could dovetail to happiness, because I think it's like almost connected. But Suresh, Vineet, you haven't said anything. You just want to say a word, and then I'll ask Suresh to wrap this up, and we'll get to happiness.
No, I'm good.
All right, so Suresh, do you want to wrap this up? Just say something, since this is your favorite thing. Anything else you want to add, and then we can get into the.
I think no. I think all of us Yeah, I mean, all of us are agreeing on this, and it's definitely a fantastic topic, and the way he has laid it out is very clear. I really don't have anything more to add. Maybe we can
Sure,
come back to it
sure,
because
sure.
when we go to happiness, money is an important form of happiness,
Right.
or rather, contributor to happiness.
Let's do happiness, man. Let's do happiness.
All right. So who wants to go? Gulshan, do you want to just say a few lines on that? Your
Yeah.
point, and then we
So
can
I
take
just right. So I didn't read the whole thing about happiness, but I read some parts and few things which really struck out and which I think really meant a lot to me when he says that um, happiness is a skill. That really struck home. You have to develop it, you have to practice it, you have to have intention, you have to work at it. So that's
Agreed.
and at 45 years of age, I've been through enough highs and lows to realize the truth of what he's saying. Sometimes, as a child, I think a lot of happiness is effortless because the smallest things, candy will give you happiness, meeting a friend will give you happiness. There's so much newness to life and so many surprises in store. But I believe that tapers out as you start growing up and you become kind of jaded and faded and you've seen it all. So you really have to create that opportunity for yourself. What will give me joy? What will make me happy? And so the very often a thought something I try to do every morning is, what am I going to do today so that this is a happy day for me? So I try to, besides my chores, besides my this thing, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to sketch, I'm going to paint, I'm going to write, I'm going to, connect with people, whatever. And so I thought that practice part the skill was very important. The other thing that he brought out was, which has started resonating with me a lot now. A lot of happiness for me has to do with peace. Probably not 30 years ago. 30 years ago, happiness did not equate to peace. Happiness equated much, much more to success. And I don't know whether that's a natural curve where everybody follows, and with age, peace starts becoming more important to you. But I really have come to a point where, I walk away from meaningless conflict. I don't want chick, 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 cut, cut, pat, pat. Zero tolerance, zero tolerance for that. If it's a meaningless conflict, I am out, I'm away. I don't want to be with people who are just nahi karna mere ko, gossip nahi karna, chit nahi karna, kuch nahi. So peace has become a huge factor for me. So I will try and meditate, and solitude becomes really important to me. So I'm happy in my own little cave by myself. So solitude so that peace part struck to me. And of course, there's the important parts where he talks about the lesser desires you have. I think that we all, being Indian, probably वो हमको सबको पैदा होते ही सिखा देते हैं that the lesser number of desires you have, the happier you're going to be. That minimalistic attitude. And so these are some things that really resonated with me on the happiness bit.
I think
Actually,
this one says that desire is a contract that you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want. It was brilliant.
Yeah, I really fantastic. Actually, I haven't. So I'm going to. I'm glad you brought this up. Somebody had sent me this book earlier. I didn't read it enough, but I'm going to go through it in much more detail now.
Hey, Gulshan, I have a small challenge for the part that you mentioned, the first part. And I loved the line of happiness is a skill, and I tried implementing it. And until I got challenged by my spouse, she says happiness is not a fucking skill; it's a decision you take. And then I thought deeper about the topic. Yeah. And then I thought, yeah, maybe the decision comes before the skill, because I was trying to be happy, and yes, indeed, I was using it as a skill. But first step is probably to be happy. So it's a binary first step. And and while my thoughts are not fully formed, it could be a combination of deciding to be happy and then working with the skill.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts?
I am totally with you, with her, that's what I said. It's a skill and it requires intention. So the intention is the decision. So it requires intent and it requires accountability. I take responsibility to be happy, to make myself happy, and I make a decision to be happy. Now, at the same time, I don't want to water down sorrow and pain and suffering as trivial, and also not let it feel ki that's what he said. A happy person is not somebody who's laughing all the time. It's not that. You will have sad moments, but I think it's the state of mind that your ability to say that I can get back to my center. So one example or two examples that come to mind is, one guy had written about it. He had lost a very I don't know who, but somebody very, very close. And then he's having his conversation with his coach, and he's saying, I'm giving myself a month to mourn and grieve, right? And then I'm going to be back. That's the decision, that's the intention. Now, after a month, the pain will, it's not that the pain doesn't come in waves, it will come, but at least he's making an attempt. But uske pehle ek intention thi, ek decision thi. So I'm totally with you. It is a skill and it requires strong intention to make that choice. You have to make that choice, and then you develop skills around this, so honestly, like if I am irritated, like yesterday I had a fight with my younger son, the skill that I utilized was I actually came and watched a couple of comedy videos, because that I knew that that's the way that I will change my state of mind and take myself away from that. So that starts becoming a skill.
That part is it. And one of the ways I thought about is the decision part is probably episodic, it's an event, whereas the skill part is a continuous building up. So that part is one way to think about it. That's the way I've rationalized it.
I think that decision part is a life decision. Ki come what may, I choose to, work through my circumstances. So another guy that I saw, Ray Dalio. Any of you follow Ray Dalio on Twitter or on this thing? So remember, I don't know if you. So Ray Dalio's eldest son passed away before the Christmas break last year. Right, I was devastated. So he's written out a note. He's written out his very nice note. We are devastated. Thank you for this thing. He's in. Of course, he's in sorrow, in suffering. He's grieving, mourning, but he's holding it together. And then he says, "I'll get back after Christmas." And now, when I look back, I saw him. He was back. He was back in form. He's doing all his tweets. He's back there. So I think that ability that this too shall pass की जो skill जो हम develop कर लेते हैं, उसको हम झेलना सीख लेते हैं कि हाँ ये गुजर तो जाएगा यार, किसी ना किसी तरह गुजर तो जाएगा. I think that is the decision you make when you realize कि हाँ ये गुजर जाएगा, and then you cope with it that way. So I am totally. It is a decision, and then you build on that skill. उसके ऊपर.
So guys, we're out of our scheduled time, but another 10 minutes is okay. Is it okay? Are you guys okay with another 5 minutes?
Yeah, I'm okay.
All right.
I'm okay.
So I wanted to hit one discordant note on what he said, and that is actually to connect with what Vineet also said. I mean, that's also another area which I kind of not just find it difficult to digest, but actually straightforward disagree with him. I agree with his analysis that about the whole Sumerian American thing. I get that, but I'm talking about meaning here. In the sense like he talks about complete meaninglessness, and he's saying क्या फर्क पड़ जाएगा यार तुम्हारे जीने या मरने से कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. So that is one area where I think is I get where he's coming from. I get the point of his this whole thing about desire, and I want to make things better. Until that becomes better, I will not be happy, kind of a thing. I get that, but I think it's not the only way of thinking about what is beyond yourself. I think for me it's very fundamental core to me to be able to kind of think about life which is beyond myself. It's not about me. There's a whole lot that is out there, and a lot of my meaning comes not from what is just me, but a lot of my meaning comes from what is outside of me. So and for me it's not the same as saying that hey, till all that stuff changes the way I want it, I'll be very unhappy. It's not the same. So for me it's the holding both together. I'm not unhappy because of things not being the way I want, but I find great meaning in contributing to what is out there. So that's just one discordant note I just wanted to bring about. And Vineet, I don't know if you have something similar in mind, because we're talking about this.
Yeah. I think I think that's right. And there is a lot of this. I think this discordant note goes through many of these themes. There, it's all, which is good. Um, I'll try to be brief, but I'm trying to gather my thoughts as well. So थोड़ा सा rambling होगा. Sorry. तो देखो जैसे वो कहता है, he says कि desires are bad, and like Gulshan, like you said, we're born with that philosophy, right? So what I have observed here, थोड़ा सा यहाँ बाहर रह के, in India maybe you look at one of the things I'm rambling because I've changed themes and topics a little bit. One of the things I wanted to ask at the start of this discussion, which I didn't ask, but maybe we leave that as a parting note, is would this guy have written this book if he was not as successful as he was? Okay? Would he have written this book? Would he have transmitted these ideas if he hadn't achieved what he achieved? Okay? And along the same lines, would he have written this book when he was in his early 30s, in the middle of trying to get where he eventually got to, in the middle of all that deal making, hustle, bustle, ye wo? उस समय उसका desire का फंडा and happiness का फंडा, ये सब उसको बाद में चमका कि in the middle of it चमका? Back to the same question. Would he have written this book? Would he have written this book if he hadn't gotten to where he was? So I won't answer that question, or I won't give you an opinion on that. It's a question really. I don't have a, but I just want to leave you with that thought. So let me. Sorry, Suresh. No, so let me get back to this thing. So this desire, so my view is, I do believe this. And I think he says the same thing. So I don't want to misinterpret him. I don't think he's saying don't have any desires and be happy. And if he is saying that, then I don't agree with that. I do think I agree with what Arpit you were saying. I do think people need to have desires. I do think people should not have too many desires, uncontrolled desires or unreasonable desires. But people need to have desires, and people need to work hard to achieve those desires. That gives your life meaning, that gives your life purpose. And there is great happiness in getting close to your desires or achieving your desires. If those desires are about you and becoming, whether it's about you, your wealth, your children, fine, those are legitimate desires, but those are narrow desires. Subjective. It's a subjective opinion, not to criticize. It's perfectly fine to have those desires. If your desires are about you, but also a little bit about somebody else, that's great. God bless you. But my point is that to achieve anything, you need to have desires, and you need to pursue those desires with passion and with dedication. Otherwise, kuch hoga nahi. Nobody can ever get successful without having desires and without having full dedication and passion. And what that means is that you will have to sacrifice, you will have to make trade-offs. It doesn't happen in a nice flow and pattern. No, it doesn't. It never ever happens. It's like this work-life balance thing. भाई अपने को successful भी होना है, but work-life balance भी चाहिए. So, in my opinion, it is a nebulous concept. It is fine to desire work-life balance. It is perfectly fine, and it is fine to aspire for it. It is fine to get it as well. But you have to be willing to make trade-offs. It's like Suresh, what you were mentioning at the earlier. You're guiding your kids to be successful, and what I took away from that was primarily financially successful. But you're guiding them to be happy. Now the two are not necessarily contradictory, but there is a trade-off. Anyways, I'm deviating from what I was trying to say. So I guess my point is, I don't subscribe to this idea that you should not have any desires, and you live a desire-free life, and you live happy and all that. I think you should have few desires. You should pursue them with passion. You should be able to be. And the decision around being the decision one makes around being happy, and then the habit or intention one has, and the practice of being happy is about being able to make those trade-offs, pursue those desires, yet not be unhappy. And that's the balance, that's the challenge. If one can do that, great, Godspeed. और नहीं होता है तो थोड़ा सा फिर fight. That's how I look at it. I know I've rambled. मतलब इतना clear नहीं है, लेकिन
but there's lots in what you said that I disagree with.
okay.
But let me put it out there. You should have desires, you should not have desires. Honestly, human beings are built with desires, baked in.
Correct.
So
Correct.
what somebody wants and somebody does not want is not up to another person.
Correct.
Similarly, judging whether we should have aspirations and work dedication and there's a trade-off. Honestly, context is everything. यहाँ पे again context of Europe is it is very possible to have work-life balance, very possible to have the life of your dreams, and not have a trade-off with the hours of work. So context is everything in that sense.
Agreed with that
Third
also.
thing is the part. Third thing is यार हम अपने prism से दूसरे लोगों को judge कर रहे हैं because maybe we're coming from a prism. For everybody, they can pursue some desires with passion, some desires with less passion. It doesn't make their life more or less successful. It just makes it different.
No. I agree completely, Gaurav. So sorry, go ahead, but I agree with that. There is.
The point is.
But
I'm done with what I want to say.
No, I agree.
No,
I agree. So if it came across that I am judging somebody based on the desires, that is absolutely not my intent. Because who is somebody else to judge somebody else based on their desires? My only point was that, and I don't think Naval is making this point either. My only point was that to not have any desires, and kind of that I don't think is a.
That's not viable, and neither is
that's not a
desirable state.
Yeah, that's not a broad-based approach for happiness, right? There will be a few people who will become monks and all that, and that's fine. That's their choice. But for the general population across the board, that's not. I think that's not the state. That's not the equilibrium.
If I can add here, Vineet. So I don't think he's putting a limit on the number of desires one should have, have or not have, right? But what he's saying is, if you have too many contracts to be unhappy, as in too many desires, which are too many contracts to be unhappy, you will end up being unhappy.
Agreed.
All the time, right? Because you're waiting for something or other to be fulfilled at all times, at any point of time, right? So you're waiting for something, right? Instead of that, have lesser desires. You choose them wisely, right? You will say, this is what I want. That's so basically you have you sort of know yourself, you be authentic, know yourself. It goes back there, but you make a choice, conscious choice, that I will want lesser things, whichever is important, for which you have to meditate, think, and what is that I really want. And I also want to draw the attention of everybody to, I draw this parallel. If you, in this section on happiness on page 142 in this book, actually, he talks about peace and happiness in the second part of that page, right?
Yeah.
So I actually compare that with wealth and money. He says, I think what he says is, peace is happiness at rest.
Oh, I loved that sentence. Absolutely loved that. And happiness is peace in motion. I mean, it's literally to frame and keep it. Beautiful.
And that is like, I compare that with wealth and money, right? So money is actually what can get you the thing that you want. You want food, you have to give money, right? But wealth is what keeps on giving money to you whenever you want it, right? Whenever you're not working for it, also it is generating money, right? That is wealth.
So I was wondering, like I said, so I said peace has suddenly become, not suddenly, maybe as I've aged, it's become very important to me. It probably wasn't the hugest component in my arsenal of what constitutes happiness 30 years ago. 30 years ago, happiness meant a lot more of success and money and the conventional indicators of having a decent life, but now it's so much more to do with peace.
Exactly. So basically, peace is like, again, to draw a comparison, like peace is it's only a he talks about single player game and all that, right? So peace is only a contract between you and yourself, right? There are
Yeah.
no two parties involved, right?
There are no
Happiness is always a contract between you and somebody else or some other thing, right? So it's like permission leverage. Somebody has to give you something or agree to something, and then you become happy. Peace is like,
So I think happiness also, it's better to make it a single party contract with yourself. That you're better off that way.
Agreed. No, I agree.
Yeah.
That is,
I
and that,
actually didn't, I didn't actually disagree with anything that Vineet said. To me, and I don't know whether what Naval is saying is different from what Vineet is saying, or I just
I
wonder.
think he's saying the same thing.
Yeah, he probably has used much stronger words to say, don't think too much about it. You don't have to worry so much about your existence. I think he's talking about, he is trying to attack the existential angst that all of us have, and the amount we fret and worry about our lives. He probably is saying, put that away, because dude, you don't really matter. Okay, eventually you're just going to be you came from a speck of dust, you're going to become a speck of dust. Though I don't think he means to say that your life is entirely meaningless.
No, that's a very important distinction, contrast. Actually, that's the critical part for me, where I think he crossed the line as far as I'm concerned.
So probably you feel he crossed the line, whereas I feel, to me, I need to read more. I need to read more. Has he crossed the line? Yeah.
I feel he crossed the line as well.
So
Right?
I have to read
there
more.
is context. There is context. Thoda context though in my mind, right? I agree. I feel he crossed a line. If somebody, I think he's, in the best case, he's opened it up for interpretation. In the worst case, he's crossed a line.
Yeah. All right.
In the best case, he's opened it up for interpretation because he's provided some context and he's used some, Weasley words, if I can say that. But in the worst case, if somebody just reads that one section, then somebody could take away that what he's saying is, what you do doesn't really matter. To karo jo karna hai.
Oh, no. That's if that's what it comes across. I have to read again. If that's what it's coming across, then there's a problem. It's not that. It matters hugely.
So I have a proposal. Why don't we not stop this discussion now and we continue this discussion on the group, so we can include others as well.
मेरा एक दूसरा सजेशन ये था कि he had a really good reading list at the end, तो उसमें से एक बुक चुनता है.
वो भी मैं सोच रहा था. So that was what I was thinking we should do now, is to decide कि क्या कौन सी बुक पढ़नी है.
ग्रुप में डिस्कस करने में टाइप बहुत करना पड़ता है. I mean, and I am one of the ones who type a lot. बाकी तुम लोग तो एक के भी नहीं भेजता है कोई.
ये भेजता हूँ ये.
तेरे तो कब से कोई मेल ही नहीं देखा, मैंने कोई पोस्ट नहीं देखा. I don't know. I mean,
यार एक तो ना, there is a lot of junk that goes on in that main thing, which really turns me off. That's just my personal opinion. But ठीक है.
So one of the main contributors of junk is me. So बोल दो.
नहीं. I am clearly not referring to you.
I'm talking about a smaller group. I'm talking about our readers.
I understood.
Yeah. So उसके अंदर and for those who don't like to type, WhatsApp has this really phenomenal way of actually तुम अपना ज्ञान बोल के भी वहाँ पे डाल सकते हो. तो वो कोशिश करनी चाहिए एक आध बार. It's good fun sometimes. But I mean, let's try. I mean, there's no hard and fast thing that we have to do it, but we can try. Let's see how it goes, where it goes, if there's something that we want to talk about. But right now, what is the book that we want to? I really wanted to. I haven't fully read Yuval Harari, the Sapiens wala book. I'm sure all of you have read it. But if you haven't,
not actually. मेरे को भी ये लग रहा था that everybody would have read it. I have not read it. I don't know.
Okay, Sapiens मैंने पढ़ी है, but I have a suggestion. मुझे ऐसा लगता है we are still not through with this book, and there's a lot.
Okay.
There's so much here, in the sense, so much here that he throws up to think. There's so much food for thought. We don't have to necessarily agree with him, but मुझे लगता है थोड़ा सा जो हमने topics नहीं touch किए हैं या जो touch किए हैं उनमें कुछ थोड़ा सा depth करके फिर से.
Sure.
That's my thought. पता नहीं बाकी लोग बोलो.
Yeah, I agree with you. We can have next session can be on this book itself.
Super. ठीक है. So let's close off our official part of this. Like there's nothing official about it. But let's close off our discussion for the sake of making sure we can do this again. So I'm trying to keep this short so that we don't feel like we have a very heavy Sunday evening.
That's a very good idea.
Yeah. So, but that doesn't mean we have to log off or anything. But we can just randomly chat if we feel like, or we can say bye and we can come back later. So, so should we meet about a week, like a month later, the same schedule that we had? Abhi aaj, this is what first week of July, first week of August में मिलना?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Okay. So what we've agreed is that we'll continue discussions around the same. What we could do is probably interact with other books or interact with our experience, bring in a little bit more data or counter perspectives to what he's saying. So that might help, interacting with other content that is out there.
So I'm going to read. I'm going to try and read the whole book by then, because I've just read parts of it and I realize that there's a lot of stuff that I need to go through.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Super. So
Superb. Yep.
So Arpit, you have succeeded in dragging me in. I mean, you've literally pulled me in, huh? But I actually enjoyed it. Because I'm very fed up with the Zoom calls and all that. मेरा दिमाग खराब हो जाता, but it's nice. I think this feels a very familiar group and I'm comfortable. And so I think probably that's what also matters a huge lot. Na?
Yeah, I think like Gaurav was saying, I don't know, we lost him, but he was talking about context, and context is important. And I think the context here is pretty significant. It's not in your face, but it is a 20 plus year history of friendship, which we are trying to.
So obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that is what is interesting, because we saw each other 20 years back. Now we are looking at each other again, almost like a. So it's a very interesting life lesson that we are drawing just from being together. Yeah. Superb. So let me just try and take a snap. Hey Suri, तेरा फोटो आया था यार, इसलिए मेरे को snap लेना था. ऑन करना वीडियो को.
एक मिनट, पता नहीं कहाँ गया वीडियो. No, I didn't know that my video was off.
What are you saying? All this time we haven't been able to see you.
Oh, that is because I put my phone on the table and it was pointing to the ceiling or something. I didn't know that it was switched off. Oh my god. Now,
No problem.
now
No
I know.
problem. Smile, everyone.
Yay.
Gotcha.
Very good.
Okay. Super, guys. I'm going to log off, but you can.
Okay. Yeah, I'll log off too. Okay, guys. Thank you.
Chalo fir.
Bye.
Okay,
Bye.
guys. Enjoy.
Bye.
Enjoy your weekend.
Bye.